Hello and welcome to today's video. We've got a box here with, I honestly can't remember what's inside this thing, but I believe it is an iPhone or an iPod based on the box size, and it weighs almost nothing. So let's get this thing opened up and see what we have. Okay, here we go. We have an iPod Touch. This is a 3rd gen 32 gigabyte model that is in really good condition. A few scratches there on the screen, but no cracks, and I'm not seeing any dents or big scrapes around the outside of this device. Let's go ahead and try to power this thing on and see if it has any battery. Oh, and it does. All right. Slide to unlock. And right away, those of you who are experts in iOS devices, you know exactly why this is special. This is iOS 3. You can tell because of the metallic dock at the bottom there. Let's go into settings and see if we can figure out exactly which version this is. 3.1.2. So if I'm not mistaken, 3.1.3 is the last version of iOS 3 that you could get. And I'm trying to get the camera. Maybe it's better if we're closer. So again, 32 gigabyte model, lots of music on here, some videos, a few pictures, and some applications. Let's go check out those apps. We've got Lightsaber, we've got Alarm Clock, Paper Toss, that's a good one, Zippo Lighter, Kickball, Backgrounds, Pandora, that's a classic, Monkey Ball, I played that on the PlayStation, Facebook, Disney, Doodle Jump was good. Tap Tap's always fun. Words with Friends, that was a good one. Angry Birds, that's a classic. I don't recognize some of these. Let's see what kind of music's on here. We'll check out Cover Flow. It looks like a mix of pop music and maybe some rock. Lots of Glee. Any Glee fans out there? Lots of pop, a little hip hop, and I think some rock music. Some stuff I'm familiar with, and some of this I really don't know much about. Anyway, lots of music on here. So let's talk a little bit about this iPod. So the 3rd gen is basically the iPod Touch 2nd gen with an S at the end of it. So just like iPhones, this is basically the same thing as the 2nd gen, but with upgraded internals. So we got a faster processor, we got more RAM, which was increased from 128 megabytes all the way up to 256 megabytes in this thing. We also got improved storage, which was not only faster, but now started at 32 gigabytes, with the high-end model going up to 64, which was the most in an iPod Touch at the time. The 3rd gen iPod also shipped with earbuds that had the remote and microphone in them for the first time, which allowed you to record voice memos because this iPod does not have a built-in microphone. Overall, this design is really nice. It feels good to hold. The aluminum is nice and smooth, although it does get really scratched really quickly. The antenna for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth sit behind this little plastic piece, and more plastic for the power button as well as the volume switch. Down at the bottom, we've got the 30-pin connector as well as the headphone jack. And that is it. There are no cameras on this iPod. It does have an internal speaker, but it sounds really bad. And like I said, there are no microphones. So this really is kind of just a iPod with a screen that can play some games. And this thing was much better at gaming than the 1st and 2nd gen, thanks to its improved performance. This iPod shipped with iOS 3, as you all saw, and would go on to get the full iOS 4 update, which featured multitasking and home screen wallpapers. This iPod would also end up getting iOS 5, which was released in 2011. And in that update, we got iCloud and iMessage and a lot of more modern features that really allow you to use this iPod. Even today in 2023, you can still send iMessages from it. You can do iCloud photos and download recently purchased applications. So in a lot of the ways, this was a very successful iPod, but not many people bought one because the second gen was still sold alongside the third gen for a much cheaper price. The third gen started at $299 for 32 gigabytes and worked its way up to $399 for the 64 gigabyte model. For the display, this thing has a 3.5-inch display that is not a Retina, but it still looks pretty decent. It's really hard to use a screen this small, especially when you're used to the big iPhones and iPads that we have today. But for simple things like Angry Birds, for example, this screen does just fine. So the reason this is special in iOS 3 is that you cannot downgrade the software on this, unlike the first and second gen iPod Touches, which you can pretty easily downgrade if you have the right version of iTunes. The third gen, you cannot do that. Once this thing is updated, there is no going back. So finding one of these on iOS 3 is pretty unique, and these are hard to come by. Let's look at some of the iOS 3 wallpapers. We've got a lot of paintings, and we got a butterfly here. Looks very nice. And we have the iPod Touch only wallpapers, which these were used in the advertisements. And as far as I'm aware, these are the only, these wallpapers are only available on the iPod Touch. You could not get the wallpapers on the iPhone. Well, you could get all of the ones down here. You could not get the music wallpapers, unless I am wrong about that. And if I am wrong, someone please correct me. Also, accessibility was introduced on the third gen iPod Touch. The second gen could not get accessibility features, even though it received the iOS 3 update and the iOS 4 update. This was a third gen and above feature. Anyway, that's been a look at this third gen iPod Touch running iOS 3. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you in the next one.